G-Man Boxing. Do you know what I mean? Every single live he donates. I see him on other lives donating. He's got the bag on it.
Alright people, midweek report time. So, a lot of interesting stuff going on over the last few days. This one right here. So, Bob Arum has named Andy Ruiz as a potential opponent for Tyson Fury's fight next summer. He said obviously he still wants to get the Alexander Usyk fight made for November, December in Saudi Arabia. Now, interestingly enough, and I'll touch on Fury versus potentially facing him now in a sec, but I want to read, where is it? It was a quote from Simon Jordan, here it is, that he was saying on TalkSport yesterday. So he revealed that he's heard rumours, that there's a mega 3-fight deal with the Saudis. Tyson Fury versus Alexander Usyk, Anthony Joshua versus Deontay Wilder. Then winner meets Usyk versus Dubois, and Fury versus Ruiz, supposedly happening beforehand. So they're talking about this big kind of heavyweight extravaganza, so to speak. So I'm assuming that they're talking about doing Dubois versus Usyk, Fury versus Ruiz in the summer, culminating in Fury versus Alexander Usyk at some point in December, November. And then obviously, as well as that, do Anthony Joshua versus Deontay Wilder maybe in around the same time. Maybe on this, I doubt very much they do that. Actually, I was going to say on the same card, but when I think of the money that both those guys would be paying, I was saying that they probably could afford it, but that's got to be bumper paydays all round. I mean, if they did, could you imagine? I don't want to, but could you imagine Fury versus Usyk, and on the undercard, the co-main Joshua versus Wilder? I mean, surely not. The money they'd be chucking around for that, but holy crap, that would be amazing. This is a rumour that Simon Jordan was talking about. Now, I did also hear, again, it is just a rumour, it wasn't from Simon Jordan or anyone like that, that one of the main reasons as to why Fury versus Usyk went belly up the way it did, certainly for Wembley Stadium in the month of April, would have been in a fortnight, is because the actual plan is to do this fight in the kind of winter time in Saudi, because obviously they've done fights over there. They've done Anthony Joshua versus Andy Ruiz in Saudi, and that is where the more money is, you know, regardless of the fact if you get 95,000 in Wembley Stadium, if you do it on pay-per-view, the money that the Saudis will put up is night and day over what they get in the UK. So a rumour I heard was that the fight is still neatly poised. It's a case of Fury has a fight, Usyk has a fight, and they meet in December, November. I certainly hope that is the case. Again, I'm hoping that we do still get to see this fight. In terms of the heavyweight tournament that they're talking about, I mean, that is crazy if it is. Ruiz versus Fury. Again, I suppose you would have to look at it in the context of, you're talking about guys who, obviously when you're putting heavyweight champion, you know, the heavyweight division is famously unpredictable. When you're talking about, you know, these two guys are going to fight one another, but they have to get through these guys first. More often than not, one of them takes an L. You know, a prime example would be, obviously, they wanted to get Fury versus Joshua. Fury had to fight Wilder. Joshua had to fight Usyk. Everyone was one of them was going to lose. It's never that straightforward. And, of course, Joshua lost. And, you know, you could say the same about 2019. You know, there was a run where I think it was Wilder first, then it was Joshua, and then it was Fury. They were all fighting within a couple of weeks of one another. I think it was Wilder Brazil, then it was, I think, a fortnight later, it was Joshua Ruiz. And then it was finishing up with Fury versus Schwartz. And I remember saying to myself, I was like, one of them is going to lose. One of those fighters is going to lose. And obviously it was Anthony Joshua. I don't think anyone thought it was going to be Fury, given the fact it was Tom Schwartz. But in terms of the guys they're talking about them fighting, Dubois versus Usyk, I mean, seriously, that's just like, I used the analogy last night with Joe, like, that's like getting an under-10 soccer team and then going, okay, lads, you know who you're going to play this afternoon? Yeah, they're the over 25s. You're going to play them. And see how that works for you. That's kind of how it's going to be with Dubois versus Usyk. I mean, I can't see that going well for Dubois at all. In terms of Ruiz, you know, he is a good opponent. Andy Ruiz, he's certainly no pushover. But you would say stylistically, Ruiz would complement Fury more so than the other guys at world level in the heavyweight division. Certainly the majority of the top 10 in terms of guys who still have a lot of pep in their step. I think Ruiz still does, or certainly closer to their prime. You would say that Ruiz stylistically poses the least risk for Fury, because someone like Ruiz stylistically would make Fury look pretty good. You know, if you're talking about guys like Parker, we know Parker's not going to fight Fury. Ortiz is well over the hill now at this stage. So if you take those two out of the equation, you would say Ruiz would be the next kind of one who you would say you wouldn't put it past him. You know, you never know a heavyweight division, but in terms of stylistically, you would say he's kind of fairly tailor-made for Fury. So that is the situation there with the heavyweight division, this big tournament they're planning. I mean, could you imagine just they did do Fury Usyk in December, and on the undercard you had Joshua versus Wilder, or even maybe a fortnight before you had Joshua versus Wilder, the winners ringside, and then it'd be amazing. It'd be amazing. I mean, we can dream. You never know. You never know. Now this is okay. So obviously Joe Joyce and Zhilei Zhang had the press conference today. Okay, and we look at their card here. It's not a bad little undercard now, it has to be said. I don't think it's a bad card at all. It's open the Copper Box. I've never been in the Copper Box. I've walked by it a few times, but I've never actually been in the Copper Box. But it does on TV when you see it. It does look like a good little arena. It doesn't look like there's a bad seat in the house. And if we look at the card here, I mean, obviously Joe Joyce, Zhilei Zhang, I like that card. I like the fight, I should say. I think it's a great fight. I think that in terms of opponents Joe Joyce could have taken, you know, I was saying it before this fight was announced. Before they announced, obviously, Zhang is the opponent, I was like, they'll probably take a Kubrat Pulev or someone like that. Someone whose name you recognise, but at this stage has seen much, much, much better days. That's kind of who I was thinking, right? So, someone like Zhilei Zhang, who, yeah, he lost to Filip Hrgovic, but, like, did he really? He gave a great account of himself in that fight. Many people feel as though he won the fight. You know, he scored a knockdown over Hrgovic, which realistically shouldn't have been called a knockdown, to be fair. But nevertheless, he's still a big, big unit for a heavyweight. Big heavyweight, big, strong guy. Stamina's not the best, but his punching power is tremendous. I mean, you could argue he's got the best left hand in the heavyweight division. So it's going to be interesting to see if he lands on Joe Joyce, how Joe Joyce reacts to it, or if he puts an effort in at Joe Joyce's body. I mean, whatever you want to say about Joe Joyce having an iron chin, Brian Jennings isn't a particularly big puncher, but Jennings was able to hurt Joe Joyce to the body in their fight a couple of years ago. So you never know. You don't know. And I like this fight a lot. I think it's a great fight. I expect Joyce to win. I expect him to wear Zhilei Zhang down to set the pace. He's going to want to be careful. But Zhilei Zhang has shown that his stamina is not the best. And once his stamina starts to go, his defense starts to go as well. And I think he's just going to walk onto way too many shots and get taken out. You got Sam Noakes on the undercard. He's very impressive. I like Sam Noakes, like watching him. I think all of his wins have come by knockout. Yep, 10-0 with 10 KOs. Denzel Bentley versus Kieran Smith. That's an interesting fight right there. So this is obviously Bentley's first fight back since he lost his world title shot. Kieran Smith's a good fighter. He is. Don't let his... Like, obviously his record is only one loss, and it's a knockout loss to Troy Williamson. But that knockout defeat, that came after he was out of the ring for over a year. You know, he had taking the fight, just come in and step into the deep end because he's not a ticket seller. I remember him and Rob Tepper doing a show together and talking about the fact that, look, he's not a big ticket seller, so it's difficult for him. But you see he has the talent, certainly does. So he's no walkover job for Denzel Bentley. And if you go back and look at the Troy Williams fight, Kieran Smith was winning. He was winning until he got caught. He got caught bad by Troy Williamson. Denzel Bentley's going to want to be on his A game. I like Denzel Bentley. I've always been impressed with him. The Felix Cash fight, I mean, I don't know what happened to him in that fight, because at the end of the day, Felix Cash has never looked as good as he did in that fight, and he's never looked as good since that fight. And Denzel Bentley had looked so good in the run-up to that fight, and he couldn't have looked any worse in that fight. So it was a strange fight, it really was. But Bentley should get the job done. I think Bentley's a very, very good fighter. And this is an interesting one here. So, young Moses Atuma. Frank Warren is doing what he said. He's getting him out once a month. So he's been out in February, he's been out in March, he's now out in April. Now he's fighting a guy called Konstantin Dovzhenko. So this is a Ukrainian heavyweight. Now his record is 9 wins, 6 wins coming by way of knockout, 12 defeats and 1 draw. So he's 6'1", so not the biggest heavyweight in the world. Let's see what some of his weights have been. He's in the 240s, so decent size. Now, you'd look at that and you'd say, oh gee, yeah, he's got a couple of knockouts, but he's 12 defeats. Well, interestingly, he's never been stopped. So he is somewhat durable. And, you know, you could turn around and say, but gee, you know, I mean, is he in 4-rounders? Is he in 6-rounders where you just need to... No. His last 3 fights have all been losses, yes. But they've all been over... But 2 of them have been over 8 rounds. One's over 10 rounds. And then he won his last 2 fights prior to that by knockout. And he lost a 10 rounds. I don't recognise any of these guys. They're all Eastern European names. Is that Rudenko? Oh no. Well, I do recognise Rudenko. Rudenko went 10 rounds with him. Lost another 10 rounder in 2020. Lost an 8 rounder to Alexander Zanetsky, whose name doesn't ring any bells. He's a 6'9". Wait a minute. His name does ring a bell, actually. Or am I thinking of someone different? I don't know. But the only name I'd recognise other than Rudenko is Eric Pfeiffer. That was actually a 6-round majority decision back in 2019. So this guy, I mean, to his credit, you know, he's been going in there with some names that at least certainly we know of. He's not been getting stopped. It's not like they've been all 4-rounders where, you know, you have journeymen who can just survive the 4 rounds. He's been going 8-10 rounds in these 10-rounders. So it's not necessarily... Look, it's going to be interesting. I'm sure he's going to be able to bring Moses Atuma around. I'm sure he's going to do better than the last 2 guys he did, which is so interesting because Warren, for all his flaws, and there are many, he's normally a good matchmaker. He normally knows who to put his guys in there with. And for Atuma, who is as talented as he is, he can be doing much better than those guys he put him in there with in his last 2 fights. And this is an interest. I'll be definitely keeping a watchful eye on this fight, because I think that's an interesting step up for Moses Atuma. I know it's not a great record, but the fact that he's not been stopped yet. So let's see if Atuma can see what he can do. Dmitry Bivol's manager, Vadim Korlevo, has declared that Bivol will only agree to a Canelo Alvarez rematch in September, wait for it, if it is for Alvarez's undisputed super middleweight crown. So there you go. He's not saying has to be at light heavyweight. He's saying he wants this fight at 168 for Canelo's titles. Very interesting. It's going to be very interesting to see what route Canelo goes post John Ryder. You know, I don't think anyone's given John Ryder a prayer. I certainly am. I'm just hoping he tries his best to make it competitive and doesn't do a Callum Smith and say, where's my money? Don't hurt me. I hope that doesn't happen. I hope he actually tries. In terms of who Canelo fights after, I mean, if I was in Canelo's team and you were looking for legacy, I mean, you've 2 options really when you think about it. You've got your Bivol fight, you know, try and right the wrong. Would you go to cruiserweight and fight Badu Jack? I mean, you'd be officially a 5-weight world champion. It's WBC cruiserweight title. Sullivan, you know what Sullivan's like. He's a complete clown and he absolutely loves Canelo to bits. I mean, he'd probably mandate Canelo for Badu Jack, no problem. He wouldn't care. So it wouldn't a question of getting a shot at the title. I mean, Badu Jack has definitely seen better days. Yeah, it was a good win against Makabu, but I've never seen Makabu look as bad as that. So Badu Jack, I mean, he's going to have a massive target on his head. Badu Jack will happily take a big payday against Canelo, and he will try. You know, Badu Jack is a great fighter. I just think he's past it now, but tremendous fighter is Badu Jack. You know me, I love Badu Jack. He's one of my favourites. So he'll give as good as he's going to get. But I think that for Canelo, like I'd be saying, what's wrong with fighting the Badu Jack? If you're looking the legacy for world title, if you're looking for money, and it's still a tough fight, will be Benavidez. Because that fight would just do ballpark numbers in September. Crazy numbers. This is a weird one. So, an announcement never came, but One Direction's Liam Payne and Tommy Fury announcement tomorrow. Good luck with that. The announcement we did get for a fight is Jake Paul. He will actually fight Nate Diaz at a catch weight of 185 pounds on August the 5th in Dallas, Texas. Interesting. So, as far as I was aware, didn't Jake Paul have a rematch clause for the Tommy Fury fight? So he's obviously not invoking that just yet. Could be doing a Canelo and having a fight, or maybe an interim fight in the meantime before rematching Tommy Fury. I mean, Nate Diaz, as far as I'm not the biggest UFC fan, but I don't recall Nate Diaz being a striker. I think he's more a ground and pound type of guy, isn't he? I know he made McGregor tap out. I'm surely he's more a ground and pound type of guy. Known for being very tough. Nate Diaz, him against Jake Paul. I mean, I probably would watch it, truth be told. It's in Dallas, August the 5th, so it's a while away. I probably would watch it. We'll see we'll wait and see with that one. But would he have Tommy Fury on the undercard, beat Nate Diaz, and then announce a rematch maybe on the undercard of Fury versus Usyk? Who knows? Now, I heard this rumour last week, and I talked about it very briefly, but Liam Smith has actually stated that his rematch with Chris Eubank Jr. seems to be now back on the cards for June at the Manchester Arena, same place as the last fight. He added that they tried their best to make the Conor Benn fight, and I think the only reason it fell through is because the British Boxing Board of Control stayed firm on it. I think there was repercussions for Chris Eubank Jr. if he actually went ahead with that Conor Benn fight, as opposed to what Conor Benn, obviously we know, was in hot water with them. But I think they were going to go with Chris Eubank Jr. as well. And obviously the Nevada State Athletic Commission have said, no, we're standing by the British Boxing Board, as has California. So, it's interesting what's going to happen. I mean, it looks like Manny Pacquiao, thank God, that fight's not going to happen. Kell Brook, I mean, what is exactly happening with Kell Brook? Is he coming back? Is he not? I don't know. I wouldn't be at all surprised if he targets the winner of this fight, Liam Smith versus Chris Eubank Jr. So it does look, for all the world, like that fight now is back on, and Chris Eubank Jr. is actually going to end up rematching Liam Smith after all. Wait for the announcement. I found this picture so funny when I just had to giggle. So Joshua and Amir Khan were pictured in Dubai yesterday. When you look at Amir Khan and Joshua, you cannot not have flashbacks to 2017. I was convinced it was someone hacked Amir Khan's account when he accused Anthony Joshua of smashing his missus, because you were looking at that thinking, what the hell is going on? And you're thinking, surely not. Surely, I wish I was doing videos at the time. I wish I was, because that would have been would have had a field day with it. But you were like, surely not. And then he comes out, Amir Khan, and says, yeah, no, you did, and basically says, that's not anyone trolling. I wasn't hacked. I wrote that. And it's just funny. It just was funny. The whole thing was it was crazy, but funny. And now you see them here and they're best buds. It's like, oh man. Wait a minute here. So One Direction's Liam Payne and Tommy Fury confirmed their poster yesterday was not for a boxing match. Okay, well obviously, I mean, Liam Payne, it's painful listening to him sing, probably much less seeing him fight. I don't get this from the British Boxing Board of Control. So they've actually now ordered Fabio Wadley to defend his British title against Fraser Clark rather than David Adelaide. Why? Why not David Adelaide? I mean, David Adelaide, yeah, I don't really rate Fabio Wadley. I don't really rate Fraser Clark. I don't really rate David Adelaide. But I'd rather see, the better fight is Adelaide versus Wadley. Fraser Clark, no offence, I don't particularly rate him that highly. So for me, it's kind of like, well, he's definitely the more experienced of the two in terms of he had a much prolonged amateur career, but still as a pro, I haven't been impressed by him. Fabio Wadley hasn't massively impressed me, but certain things, like he does have a good jab, he's fast hands, definitely has a lot of nit and grit, a lot of heart, a really fiery individual when he's in the ring, and I think his youth probably would be just too much for Fraser Clark. I would much rather see him versus David Adelaide. Don't know why that's not being ordered. Let's wait and see. So Ellie Scottney's world title fight has now been pushed back to June the 10th in London after it was removed from the Katie Taylor-Chantel Cameron undercard due to Cameron's history with Scottney's trainer Shane McGuigan and Cameron pulling the old MH card, which seems to be everyone's get out of jail free card for bad behaviour these days. Go figure. So I hope Ellie Scottney isn't, because she wanted to fight on Katie Taylor's undercard because she's a big fan of Katie Taylor. So I hope that this whole incident doesn't, get her mind wandering away from it and thinking about other things. And I hope she performs that day, that she is, how would I say it, that it doesn't affect her performance. I really hope that's the case. Redemption in Wembley. Negotiations have begun for former IBF champion Josh Taylor to return against former world title challenger Christopher Diaz. OVO Arena, Wembley Stadium, OVO Arena. God, I like the OVO Arena. That's actually not a bad arena. Contracts are not signed yet, but they're looking to do that on June the 10th. Because I've heard Matchroom mention that date, but we haven't heard anything about a fight yet, so that's interesting. Is there any other fights that have been ordered by the British Boxing Board of Control other than that? Because I'm just looking around here and trying to see what there is. Now, this one right here I actually seen, which is an interesting one. Kieran Conway versus Linus Udofia, a eliminator for the British middleweight title. That's going to be interesting. Linus Udofia, so he came up just short for the British middleweight title in a very, very good fight on a Wasserman card last year. I think it was last June or July, against Denzel Bentley. And Linus Udofia, he lost that fight more than Denzel Bentley won it, in my opinion. It was a very, very good fight, but Linus Udofia lost that fight more than Bentley won it. Him against Kieran Conway. You know, Kieran Conway has been a bit in the wilderness since he lost on the undercard of Canelo versus Billy Joe Saunders. And he's kind of been used more as a filler in these shows, in these matchroom shows. But him against Linus Udofia at 160 pounds, that's going to be real interesting. That's a real good fight. Kieran Conway definitely is a very talented fighter. Definitely. He certainly is. So, him against Linus. Linus is the natural middleweight of the two. So, it's going to be an interesting fight, man. Looking forward to that one. Oh, yeah. And the date they're talking about for Chris Eubank versus Liam Smith, obviously on pay-per-view, June 17th in the Manchester Arena. So not clashing, thankfully, with the Josh Warrington card, potentially Josh Warrington card in the OVO. So that's interesting. So that's pretty much it. That's pretty much all we have to talk about for today. I'll leave you with that, people. I hope you enjoyed the video. As always, people, if you could, smash the like button, hit subscribe, of course, if you haven't already. As per usual, I always got to thank them because they're helping me out very much so. I'd like to help them out as well. Is the Hit Company for being the sponsor of today's video. You know, I always got to plug them because they're a great bunch of guys and they do some great work over there. So please, we'll link to their website in the description. Have a look there. For now, lads, I'll leave you with that. As always, I hope you enjoyed the video. Smash the like button if you could. Again, hit subscribe, of course, if you haven't already. For now, people, I'll leave you with that. Peace.